At that point, she's aware that, they were down there throughout the day of the 22nd, and she goes down and sees, because the light's on in the basement, and she's seeing what's going on. And right next to the stairs, there's a 5-gallon bucket, and she lifts a towel that's covering the bucket, and unfortunately sees a mother's worst nightmare, that her son's head is in the bucket.
On February 22nd of 2022, in Green Bay, Wisconsin, a woman named Taylor Schabusiness murdered a man named Shad Thyrion while in the midst of a sexual encounter with him, strangling him to death with a dog chain. Afterward, she defiled and mutilated his corpse. Not long after the atrocity, she was apprehended by police. In custody, she gave a full and detailed confession. She would be charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of sexual abuse, and 1 count of mutilating a corpse. This past week, she stood trial. The following narrative is based on witness testimony presented during the proceedings, on Taylor Schabusiness's confession, and on available reporting as of this date regarding what led up to and what followed the brutal murder of Shad Thyrion and the desecration of his remains.
County Public Safety, how may I help you?
Yes, I'd like an officer at 829 Stony Brook. Girlfriend just woken me up and swears that she found her severed head of her son in the basement.
Okay, here.
I have no clue what's happening. My girl swears that she's found her severed head of her son in the basement.
Did you go down there?
In a bucket. I went down, I can't tell what the fuck it is. Pardon my language, I'm kind of a little freaked out.
Has he been missing, or?
No, yeah, he was here yesterday with some chick, and then now all of a sudden nobody's here.
Do you think she's hallucinating, or do you think that?
I don't think so. I went down there, something in the damn bucket.
Very positive my son's head is in a bucket, a young bucket in my basement.
What makes you think that?
Because I looked in the bucket.
And what did you see?
Exactly what I told you.
Where's the rest of the body at?
No idea.
Okay.
The voices on the call, opposite the dispatchers, were those of Tara Pekanik and her boyfriend, Stephen Hendricks. Both of them testified last week during Taylor Schabusiness's trial for Shad Thyrion's murder.
That's how she put it. I found my son's head in a bucket, so I'm dumbfounded. Didn't believe her. Thought she was having a mental issue or something.
Shad's mother is the second voice you heard on the audio of that call. The judge ordered cameras in the courtroom turned off just before she testified, saying that she was a victim. She told the jury that a slammed storm door woke her in the early hours of Wednesday, February 23rd of 2022. She recounted for the jury going down to the basement where she noticed a 5-gallon bucket covered with a towel, removing the towel, and discovering her son's decapitated head. Shad's sister, 16 years old now, also testified as to what little she knew. She was in the house during a portion of the fateful day, unaware of the atrocities that were happening down in the basement. Police responded to the bizarre call and met with Tara and Stephen.
Okay. Did you both see this?
I opened the towel, I picked up the towel and dropped it because I don't know what the fuck it is, man. I have bad vision, and she's like, is that what I think it is? I'm like, I don't fucking know what the fuck it is.
Do you want to just stay with those two? I'm just going to see it.
Yeah.
Where's it at?
So right there. Look right, there's a bucket with a towel on it. I wrote down there today.
Just keep that. Dude, it is. Let's just. Okay. Hold on. Just. That's real, right?
These were the first two cops on the scene that morning, and the first to see Shad's severed head in the bucket.
And then we were directed to the basement where the bucket was located. Officer Plonky remained upstairs just to keep an eye on the rest of the house. I went downstairs. At the bottom of the stairs to the right, there was a green bucket with a shower towel on top of it, just to verify we had an actual head in the bucket. Lifted the towel off, and there was, in fact, a human severed head in the bucket.
The officers swept the basement and found more blood and bits of human flesh.
And that's when he told me that he did find a severed head in the bucket.
Did you then go down to the basement as well?
I did.
And what did you observe when you got to the basement?
I observed a black 5-gallon bucket to the right of the stairs as I go down. There was a beach towel over that now had been moved away, and in that bottom of that bucket was a severed head.
Soon after the crime scene was discovered, GBPD was dispatched to the Eastman Avenue apartment, acting on information which indicated that a woman named Taylor D. Schabusiness, who had last been seen with Thyrion, was living at the residence. An officer had a date of birth and a recent photo of Taylor.
Nothing. Hey. Is this blood? Does this look like blood to you? Or am I just tripping? Bloody footprint? You see this right here?
Could possibly be blood.
Hey, who did that? Hi, Taylor. How's it going? Officer Russell with the Green Bay Police Department. Just make sure you ain't got nothing on you here. With Taylor. Taylor, you have one more for your wrist. Just put your hands behind your back, quick.
Anybody else in your apartment?
You got blood on your hands here too. No, on your hands. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to.
What apartment is it?
What apartment are you in? Come to the back of the apartment. That's where we are. You come over here. 2 more will be fine. If 84 is here.
Hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
You have contact with the male.
Hands up! Walk out towards me.
Have a seat.
All the
Have a
traffic.
seat.
All the traffic. Out towards me. Get on the ground.
Who else is in the apartment? Be straight up. Tomes?
Hands up.
Who else? Just Tomes? Is he armed?
Look out.
At the police station, investigators interviewed Taylor. She admitted to them that she had strangled Shad to death and that she had, quote, played with his body for hours afterward before dismembering the lifeless man. We'll take a look at some of her recorded conversation with the cops later in the video. Eventually, she would plead not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect to 1 count each of first-degree murder, third-degree sexual assault, and mutilating a corpse. The trial was delayed numerous times, once because Taylor attacked her attorney during court proceedings. Her lawyer withdrew from the case afterwards. Taylor has had 3 different attorneys since the case began. Last Monday, July 24th of 2023, was the first day of testimony in the trial of Taylor Schabusiness for the crimes of which she'd been accused. According to the narrative presented by the prosecution, on February 21st of 2022, 25-year-old Taylor Schabusiness, birth name Taylor Denise Coronado, was driving around with a couple of friends trying to find some crystal methamphetamine. Her passengers in the Chrysler minivan that belonged to a man with whom she was living at the time were 25-year-old Shad Thyrion and a dude named AJ Gannon. After picking up the drugs, the three went back to Taylor's place. They hung out for a while. Taylor and Shad were doing meth and mainlining trazodone. Eventually, AJ took off. Soon, Taylor and Shad decided to head over to Shad's mom's place on the west side, on Stony Brook Lane, where they hung out sometimes. They got back into Taylor's roommate's van and drove over. It was about 1 a.m. when Shad rung the doorbell 6 or 7 times, which was his customary way of gaining entry to the dwelling. Shad's mom's boyfriend let Shad and Taylor in. The pair of old friends went down to the basement. There they started some sexual play. Shad brought out 2 chains. The chains were for the use of autoerotic asphyxiation, that is strangulation during the act of coitus. They began having sex. Taylor wrapped the chain around Shad's neck. She started pulling on the chain, cutting off Shad's wind. But at some point, she decided to continue choking Shad even after he began to struggle. She choked him until his face turned purple and blood began seeping from his mouth. She continued to choke him. She passed out at one point, then woke up and continued to yank on the chain. It took several minutes for the young man to die. Afterward, Taylor spent hours molesting the man's corpse. She sodomized him with a phallus and performed oral sex on the motionless man. Finally, she decided that she would dismember the fresh cadaver. She cut off the man's head, severed his limbs, and took organs from his body, including his penis. She placed the various body parts into bags she found in the basement and placed Shad's dismembered torso in a tote. Taylor spent all of Tuesday the 22nd in the basement, violating her dead lover's body and severing its extremities, as the other residents of the house came and went. In the wee hours of Wednesday morning, Taylor began carrying some of Shad's body parts to the minivan outside the home. She drove off, bringing some of the remains with her and leaving some behind. Subsequently, she was apprehended by Green Bay police, as seen earlier in the video. In his opening statement, Taylor's lawyer tried his best to make something out of nothing.
I'd ask that you, when you're considering all of the evidence, don't jump to conclusions. Don't rush to judgment. Please keep an open mind. Listen to all the facts. Listen to what every witness has to say carefully and weigh what they have to say. And remember, there's always 2 sides to every story. You jurors are going to have to decipher the facts of what may have occurred or what didn't occur. But at the end of the case, we ask that you find our client not guilty on all the counts. Thank you.
This dude has known Taylor and Shad since high school and happens to be the guy the two were hanging out with just hours before the ghastly killing. There was a moment in his testimony when he began talking about hanging out with Taylor and Shad that night.
When I got there, we were just chilling, chopping it up, like how we always do.
Chopping it up is slang, meaning having a friendly chat. Taylor started laughing to herself as soon as she heard her friend utter the phrase, apparently noticing the irony under the circumstances.
When I got there, we were just chilling, chopping it up, like how we always do. And basically, I was like...
Taylor was unusually expressive for a murder defendant, several times struggling to control her laughter. Video shows her apparently having a staring contest with a courtroom camera. At times she seemed bored and near sleep. She seemed particularly engaged while viewing the autopsy diagrams of Shad's body as a medical examiner explained the injuries the man suffered in explicit detail.
In particular in this case, we have the head has been decapitated at the level of the lower neck. The back has been largely flayed and defleshed. In other words, the skin of the back has been removed. Also, the muscles of the back have been removed so that we have exposed rib cage and spine. The torso, so extending from about the neck to the groin, has been bisected or cut in half at the level of the lumbar vertebra or the vertebra of the lower spine, so that we have access to the inside of the torso, both the pelvis and the upper aspect of the chest and abdomen. We have attempted amputations at the level of the right shoulder and right elbow. We have numerous cuts and stab wounds of the extremities. When we get to the abdomen and thighs, we have areas of skin removal where flaps of skin have been removed. Where we get to the right thigh, all of the soft tissue has been removed, so we're down to the bone. In other words, all we have is exposed femur for the length of the femur. When we get to the lower extremities, the left lower extremity has been amputated to the level of the knee. The kneecap or patella was recovered separately. We have another amputation from the knee to the level of the ankle, and the left foot was recovered from within the left chest cavity, placed within there. At the right lower extremity, we have, again, the femur, which has been largely defleshed, but I was able to reapproximate the pieces of muscle and pieces of skin to recreate what was there. And then we had the right knee to the right foot still intact. It is my medical opinion that this would be quite a few hours. We have decapitation, we have dismemberment, we have transection of the torso. Subsequently, internally, the body has been eviscerated. In other words, we have entered inside the body through various cuts, both at the abdomen and between the ribs, where the victim's organs have been removed, largely one by one. We have castration of the decedent. The decedent has been castrated as well. We have cutting or sawing through chop mark injuries of the bones. It is my medical opinion that this would have taken quite a great deal of time.
During the ME's testimony, the jury was shown an autopsy photo of Shad's severed head, his face showing evidence of strangulation. The jury also saw photos of the bloody crime scene, though there was surprisingly little blood in the basement because Taylor had captured much of it in a large tote as she dismembered Shad and used the shower to empty the receptacle. Also shown in court were photographs of the murder weapon and the tools Taylor used to dissect and mutilate Shad's corpse, and images captured by police of cuts on Taylor's blood-stained hands on the night of her arrest. The jury saw a photo of Shad taken by Taylor just hours before his murder. There's some evidence that Taylor may have had a fixation with notorious Wisconsin serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. Former Green Bay detective Jenna Liberta testified regarding, among other things, Taylor's activities and searches on the web around the time of the murder.
Did you note any searches related to Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes.
Was there one? Was there more than one? How many?
24 total searches, such things like Jeffrey Dahmer, Jeff Boyardee, Jeffrey Dahmer's butt, Jeffrey Dahmer walking into court all sexy.
This is an image shown during proceedings, which shows Taylor posing for a picture beside a photo of Jeffrey Dahmer. A psych evaluator who assessed Taylor said during a preliminary hearing earlier this month that Taylor had confided to her that she had, quote, had a thing with Jeffrey Dahmer last year, unquote. Taylor's lawyer argued unsuccessfully that his client's interest in Jeffrey Dahmer was irrelevant to the case. Certainly the most damning evidence against Ms. Schabusiness was revealed on Wednesday, July 26th, the final day of testimony in Phase 1 of the trial. The jury was shown interviews police conducted with Ms. Schabusiness following her arrest. In the videos, she calmly and matter-of-factly discusses with police the atrocities she committed on February 22nd of 2022.
It's just weird. I got like a weird flashback from it.
But what happened?
Yeah, it's short. It was real short.
What did you see?
It's just, I don't even know anymore. Like, it was weird. I was riding him like a donkey, okay? And then, like, I think so. I think that's what was happening. I was pulling and then, like, I don't know.
Were you two being intimate, having sex?
It was getting there.
It was getting there. Okay. So will this be considered foreplay?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And then, I don't know. And then, I just didn't stop. I don't know why. I didn't stop. Damn, the head. I can't believe I let the head go.
Where'd you do the body?
The body's there. Well, you're gonna have fun trying to look for all the organs, but yeah, they're all dismembered.
And was that part of playing with him, or?
That is part of playing with him.
That was part of playing with him. Did you?
Actually, I was severing his head while I was doing that too.
You were stopping.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I was kind of like dozing off, like nodding out.
He was dead already?
He was dead.
Was his head still on?
No, I took that off. That was the first thing I took off.
Okay.
I wanted the head.
What about the rest of his body?
I didn't even take it. And then, the rest of his body, I don't even know what it is. It's in a big blue container, you know?
But when did you start, cutting up his body?
I don't know, like almost right away. I was sucking and cutting at the same time.
Okay. But what about the rest of his body parts? Did that take all day? Did you?
I was getting pissed off at the dismemberment process, actually.
Did it take a while? It took a while?
Yeah, because like I was nodding out. So
Okay, so you're kind of sleeping, kind of nodding in and out. Have you taken any other drugs?
I should have took drugs. I probably would have helped, but I didn't.
Right, you knew he was going to die, so.
I mean, I didn't, but at the same time I woke up like, fuck, that's bad. I didn't know what to do, because like, he was gonna be like, ah, like, fuck, I didn't know. You know what I mean? Because like, I don't know.
But you liked it?
I liked it. I'm like, fuck, like, it was, like, I didn't know what to do, but like, oh, I liked it though.
Mid-interview, Taylor went to the hospital and had the injuries to her hands tended to. Back at the police station, the casual conversation about murder and dismemberment continued.
You realize that you're probably going to jail after this and we're gone, so.
I didn't know that.
I'm just, telling them what it is and don't make it screw around with anybody, so.
Alright. Yeah.
You've been forthcoming with us, so we're going to be forthcoming with you.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it.
I mean, like Dave said, if somebody kills somebody and dismembers them, do you not think that person probably should go to jail?
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, this shit was fucked up, so, like, I don't even know, like, I'm like, goddamn. Yeah.
Just so we see where we're coming from and what we gotta do and nothing personal.
Yeah. Sucks.
During closing arguments, the prosecution summarized the evidence presented to the jury, noting that not only was there no doubt that Taylor Schabusiness had murdered and mutilated Shad Thyrion's corpse, this was a rare case where we don't have to guess about the defendant's intent because she told us her intent in a recorded interrogation. During his closing statement, Taylor's lawyer, with a straight face, suggested to the jury that this was a very confusing case and that no one knows what happened on that fateful day. He protested that there were no witnesses to the crime. He reminded the jury that some of the DNA evidence of Shad's post-mortem sexual assault was ruled inconclusive. He said that Taylor's confession cannot necessarily be trusted, that people who are high on meth often say questionable things, and noted that Taylor's behavior during the police interview was somewhat unusual. On Wednesday, July 26th of 2023, after deliberating for less than an hour, the jury found Taylor Schabusiness guilty on all counts. Phase 2 of the trial, in which the jury would decide if Taylor was suffering from a mental disease or defect at the time of her crimes, began and ended on the following day. The jury would now decide if Taylor would be confined in a state prison or a state mental institution. Taylor's father testified on her behalf regarding her many struggles and had bitter words for a man who he said is the one who got his daughter into using drugs.
Okay. In part because of the methamphetamine use, right?
Yep.
So Taylor was doing pretty well, and then she started using the drugs.
What was the drug?
No, meth, heroin, whatever else. I don't know.
Marijuana?
Yeah, I don't know. The kid was already doing that shit before, and just a fucking loser, and he got my daughter involved in that shit.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Nothing else.
He's referring to Taylor's husband, Warren Schabusiness, legal name Warren Chabot, who is currently serving federal time on drug charges. From inside prison, via Facebook, he's declared that he's standing with his wife. Warren and Taylor have one young son together, who was born in 2021 and now lives in Texas with Taylor's grandparents. Taylor and her dad shared a moment just before he exited the courtroom and right after he'd vilified her apparently good-for-nothing husband.
I love you too. Go Paris.
In phase 2 of the trial, Taylor's lawyer focused on her medical history, which included drug addiction and diagnoses of bipolar disorder and psychosis. Forensic psychologist Diane Lytton, who examined Taylor earlier this year, testified for the defense and said that Taylor is out of her mind.
My comments about that are that it's very unusual, what we call presentation. How is she looking? How does she talk? How does she interact? Everything. What's going on in her mind and whatnot. And it's really, really unusual. And I searched my own 32-year memory bank here, and it's exceptionally unusual presentation, how she's coming across to me, the two attorneys, other evaluators in the school. Based on my experience and training, that's a psychotic person right there. That's what's causing this really weird, bizarre, and I'm telling you, to me it's off the scale. 32 years, I've seen a lot of psychotic people, bipolar, psychotic, manic, and I just haven't seen very many like this. Very exceptional, very exceptional.
Do you believe that she has a genuine mental disorder?
Yes.
Of a psychotic nature?
Yes.
2 evaluators testified for the state. Both questioned Dr. Lytton's findings and the methodology she used. Their conclusions opposed hers. They both said that Taylor had been faking her symptoms. The prosecution emphasized during its closing argument that even if Taylor was in a drug-induced psychotic state at the time of the killing, she was still legally responsible as it was her choice to get high. The day concluded with the jury again deliberating for just under an hour. It found Taylor Schabusiness legally responsible for the crimes of which she'd been convicted. She's scheduled to be sentenced in 2 months on September 26th of 2023. She faces a possible sentence of life without the possibility of parole.